Hi, my name is Joan Ranquet. I'm an animal communicator, author, healer, TEDx speaker, and founder of Communication with All Life University. And it's a program for to learn animal communication, energy healing, and we have a whole nature and wildlife piece that is being built out as we speak. But today we're going to talk about something entirely different. Right now, we're living with incredible fires on the whole West Coast, and not just on the West Coast, in Colorado. And the origin of what I know and am going to share is from my days of living in Colorado. But meanwhile, while we've got this going on, it's also hurricane season, so we have massive water elsewhere. So our planet is really out of balance, and it's just truly a reflection of our imbalance as humans. And I'm hoping that we can sort that out. In the meantime, what happens for a lot of people is they have to evacuate. And so I wanted to kind of make a little instructional video about what to think about. So years ago, I moved to Denver. It was the year 2000, and that fall, literally the day I got there had been a huge wildfire. I moved in late fall, maybe October. Huge wildfire, and I lived in a suburb called Golden, and my horses were at a barn, and every day that I drove out to visit my horses, I passed the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds was right around the corner. And I saw animals being evacuated and dumped off there. So I was new to Denver. I was going to get married and living with my then fiance, who's now an ex. I volunteered there because I didn't really know anybody in Denver. And I had a great animal communication practice at that point on the phone. And I was starting to get in-person clients, but I had some time. And I would go clean stalls and do things. And I realized that it was really organized. And somebody had orchestrated all of this, that, the volunteers would do this, that, or the other thing, depending on their skill. So I asked where they all got trained, and they told me, and it's an organization that no longer exists, but I immediately went online and found out that there would be a training there like 2 months later, maybe 3 months later, and so I instantly signed up for that. And it was a weekend workshop in South Denver. It was like 3 days, and the first thing they did, and when you're going there, you envision like, I'm going to learn how to pull dogs out of manholes if there's a flood, or I'm going to do this or that or the other thing. And the truth is, a lot of this kind of work is organizing and office and being able to take a good Polaroid of an animal in case they're separated from their people. And the first thing they did, there were 250 of us in a room. The first thing they did is they said, "What is your evacuation plan?" And many of us didn't have one. So we were given a half hour to write out our evacuation plan, and we were in groups, and we had to share it with somebody, one of their people. And so I've always had an evacuation plan from that day on. And I also lived in Los Angeles. I was here for that big earthquake, 93 or 94, Northridge, 94. And some roads didn't work to get to my horse. I was that dingaling that was out driving in the dark because I needed to get to my horse. My apartment was a sea of terracotta plants, broken terracotta on the floor with plants everywhere. I mean, stuff broke. And so from that moment on, I always had emergency stuff in my car in case I was somewhere, and back then I was an actress and I wore something other than horse boots and hiking boots. So I had, emergency walking shoes, things like that in my car, and that's something to always think about. I always had leashes, even though I had a cat and a horse. So what I learned from that evacuation plan, though, in 2000 was you've got to know exactly what you're going to do. And I have it written down um, on my refrigerator because, as many of you, if you know me, you know, before COVID, I used to travel a lot. So I always review this with my house sitter. And I actually have a really funny, well, it wasn't funny at the time, but I was teaching in Virginia Beach. I was teaching an animal communication certification course. And I was there for a week. And that Saturday night, I was going to be done on Sunday. That Saturday night, um, my horse trainer had called and said there was a fire. So my house sitter and my horse trainer evacuated this place in half an hour because the plan is set out. And I flew home, and the fire didn't make it here, so they all were returned back to original position. And so then I flew in late that night from Virginia Beach, and my animals were like, "Wow, that was weird." They'd all spent the night somewhere else. So anyway, um, and predictably, Abby pooped in the house, and Buster Keaton was a little whiny, but it was all good. So my animals have had a rehearsal. They even know how to do this. And so the first thing, and I'm gonna go through it. I put out in my newsletter a couple weeks ago about whistle training, and this is why. Whistle training is so important. If you could train your animals to a whistle and you can get them confined, that's step one. And for me, I have a number of steps. It's how much time do you have? If you don't have a lot of time, then you're only going to secure your animals and get the hell out. But if you have a few minutes, you've got a number of things that you can do. And I've shortlisted some of it. So, for example, I'm going to just deal with, a lot of times I can see a fire or I've heard about a fire, and so I'm gauging whether the wind is going, whether I need to evacuate, and then I need help for my horses, and that'll be a whole separate video. I also lived in South Florida during, we got hit with Katrina before New Orleans did. I've evacuated there as well. Had a big evacuation plan there. And so I do know, I have it pretty organized. So my first step is secure the animals. My second step is I'm going to text Claudia and say evacuating. And then she's got several people. She'll reach out to the horse people. I have the Gentle Barn would help me if the fire's not heading to them. My horse trainer would help me if the fire's not heading to them. So that's handled. I don't have to think about that. Now I have to get I have everything in the garage you'll see in a minute. And you'll also see in a minute how I do the whistle, what I do with the whistle. I blow the whistle, get the cats into the bathroom, the dogs into the crates. And that way they're secure in case it gets crazy. Then the next step would be, of course, getting them into the car. But if it's really hot out, you don't want to get them into the car until the very end, because you can't have them sitting in a hot car. And that was true in hurricanes, and that's true here with fires often. And so then you think through, like, I have all my important papers in one place where it's just grab and go. My computer, and then some important papers here in the office, grab and go. And then if there is more time, family photos, if there's even more time. But I've scanned all those into the computer. So if that gets missed, that gets missed. Then would be some of my favorite art pieces. We have to add that white lion to the mix. Things that I've gotten from travels. And then lastly, if there is that much time, clothes. But I have stuff in the garage ready to go. I have an evacuation kit and I have an emergency kit in case I'm stuck here from an earthquake and can't get out. And then lastly, something you might want to think about is always having cash. Having ones, fives, 20s, having all different, like that was one thing that I didn't have any cash when COVID hit. And so if people were delivering food, I wanted to be able to tip them. You know what I mean? Just the little things you're not even thinking about, sometimes you need cash. So anyway, let's get started. We'll start with the whistle training. Candle up. Candle up. Candle up. Candle up. Candle up. Candle up. Delilah, candle up. Clean the people, bust the people. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Henry. Okay, so this is the emergency event evacuation and workout corner of my garage. And if it were a fire and me or my house sitter had to leave, I have this ready to go, full of about a week's supply of dog and cat food. Some of it's dehydrated and shoved in there. It's not the great stuff I normally feed, but at this point, I have what I have. I have water, I have a litter box, and I have litter. And I just want to show you that I also have a lot of the Dynamite vitamins that I have, and of course, the Jill and Joan CBD, so that if anyone is upset or worried, again, I have lots of Dynamite products in there also, supplements. And so you might want to think through what medications also you and your animals need. Thankfully, we aren't on any, but we're on supplements. So litter box. So if there was a situation, grab the animals, secure them, load up supplies, get animals in the car, and then again, the more time you have, the more things on that list you can grab. Now, if it were an earthquake, that's a different scenario. And I have about a few weeks worth of dehydrated food for me and my animals, and then some canned foods, and then an earthquake kit. But you know, I can't fix anything. I have no skills, so I don't know how any of this is going to work, but I have one. And I have water. And so the thing is it's not being afraid, it's just being prepared and thinking through your animal's needs first and foremost. Yeah, thinking through what everybody needs if you were gone for, if you had to leave for a week or if you were stuck here for a month. I know it's not the sexiest topic, but I swear to God, if you just make a list out of what you would do or what a house sitter would do, or what your kids could do if you were out, it's going to give you peace of mind, and it's also, hopefully you'll save lives. Hopefully you won't ever have to do it, but and you might help others think it through too. Like, this is really something we should be all talking about. Thank you.